3, 2, 1. Ignitions.
In 2025, Amazon flew 3 separate missions on the SpaceX Falcon 9 to deploy their Kuiper satellites. Let that sink in.
Go Falcon, go Kuiper.
Jeff Bezos didn't just write checks to Elon Musk. He had to ask his biggest rival for a ride to launch the very satellites designed to destroy him. Why? Because he had no choice. If you read the headlines, you'll see a space race. But if you look at the math, the race is already over. We are witnessing the structural foreclosure of the orbital economy. I'm not here to argue that Starlink is better technology. Subjectivity doesn't matter here. I'm here to show you the physics and the economics that have made catching up statistically implausible. Today, we aren't analyzing a business model. We are deconstructing a structural failure. Welcome to Frontier Logic.
The first piece of evidence is the wholesale trap. In almost every other industry on Earth, logistics is a neutral playing field. If Apple wants to ship iPhones, they pay DHL. If Samsung wants to ship Galaxies, they pay the exact same rate. But in space, the logistics provider is the market leader. SpaceX launches Starlink satellites at internal cost, the price of fuel, refurbishment, and ground operations. Roughly speaking, the wholesale price. Amazon, OneWeb, and Telesat must pay the retail price to get to orbit. And the gap between those two numbers is the profit margin that SpaceX uses to kill them. Imagine if Pepsi didn't have any trucks. Imagine that every time Pepsi wanted to restock a supermarket, they had to pay Coca-Cola to deliver their soda. Not only does Coke control Pepsi's schedule, but every dollar Pepsi spends on shipping directly funds Coca-Cola's R&D department. This is the death loop. Those Amazon checks that cleared earlier this year, they funded the development of Starship, the very vehicle that will make Starlink's next generation untouchable. You cannot win a war when your supply lines are owned by the enemy. Now, a skeptic might say, Amazon has infinite money. Jeff Bezos can afford to burn cash until they catch up. That sounds reasonable, but it ignores the laws of physics. Physics doesn't take bribes. And this brings us to the physical chokehold. To build a mega constellation, you need to lift roughly 40,000 tons of hardware into low Earth orbit. The problem? The launch capacity to move that much mass physically does not exist outside of SpaceX. United Launch Alliance's Vulcan is years behind schedule. Europe's Ariane 6 is launching at a trickle. They aren't just late, they are on a different calendar. Blue Origin's New Glenn is only just waking up. Meanwhile, Amazon is staring down the barrel of an FCC execution. They must have roughly 1,600 satellites in orbit by July 2026, or they lose their license. Let's look at the scoreboard as of today. They have roughly 180 satellites in orbit. They have 7 months to launch 1,400 satellites. That is not a schedule. That is a fantasy. It is a logistical chokehold. It doesn't matter how good your satellite technology is. If your satellites are sitting in a warehouse in Seattle because the bus to orbit is full, you are worth zero. The third trap is the speed trap. For 60 years, the aerospace industry treated satellites like crown jewels, built by hand, tested for years. And because they were so expensive, they had to last for 15 years. This sounds responsible, but in the age of Starlink, it is suicide. SpaceX does not treat satellites like jewels. They treat them like iPhones, or better yet, like ammunition. At their peak, they produce more than 40 satellites per week. While competitors are still perfecting version 1 in a laboratory, SpaceX has already launched version 1, watched it burn up, and is now deploying generation 3. The moat is not the factory. The moat is the data. SpaceX has more real-world data on how solar storms destroy electronics than most nation-states on Earth. Every satellite that dies teaches them something a competitor cannot simulate in a lab. And there is another layer, spectrum dominance. With more satellites in orbit than every other nation combined, Starlink effectively defines the background noise of low Earth orbit. If you want to launch a new system, you must prove that you will not interfere with them. They are not just a competitor in the environment,
They are the environment. And by the time Amazon's constellation is fully deployed, it will be competing as a museum piece against hardware that did not exist when they started building. Now, we look down, to the ground. This is the variable almost everyone overlooks, the user terminal. The hardest part of space isn't space, it's the silicon on the customer's roof. To track a fast-moving satellite, you need a phased array antenna. 10 years ago, these were military secrets. They cost $50,000 per unit. SpaceX had to invent a way to mass-produce them for the price of a PlayStation. And it cost them. Early industry estimates suggest SpaceX was losing nearly $2,000 on every dish they sold. They burned billions of dollars of internal capital just to get the price down. But today, they have scaled. They have driven the manufacturing cost to under $600. They are now approaching break-even. A startup or legacy competitor entering the market today faces a brutal choice. Do you charge the customer the real price, $1,500, and get 0 customers? Or do you match Starlink's price and lose nearly $1,000 on every single sign-up? Unless you have the supply chain power of Amazon, that math is fatal. SpaceX has already paid the tuition. Everyone else is just starting school. Finally, the nail in the coffin. The cost of capital. The satellite concepts of the 2010 era were born in a world of 0% interest rates. Money was free, debt was cheap. That world no longer exists. Today, money costs 5%. SpaceX is cash flow positive. They are funding their expansion with their own revenue. Traditional aerospace competitors are not. They are relying on debt financing in a high-interest environment. In a capital-intensive industry, this is fatal. If you are paying 8% interest on your loans while your competitor prints their own cash, you do not just lose, you bleed out. This financial gravity crushes the old guard. There is only one exception, Amazon. They have the cash to ignore the debt, but as we have already seen, money cannot buy physics. So, where does that leave us? The market has converged. We are seeing a cost asymptotic dominance. It is not a legal monopoly. No one is stopping you from trying. It is an orbital monopoly. By the time Amazon Kuiper is fully operational, by the time Europe gets IRIS² online, they will be fighting a ghost. They are building business models to compete with the Starlink of 2023, but by the time they launch, they will face the Starlink of 2028, and the math for that fight simply doesn't work. But there's one player we haven't discussed, the one player who doesn't care about profit, governments. This isn't just about fast internet, it's about sovereignty. Beijing has realized this. They are now rushing to deploy their own mega-constellation, Guowang, because they view Starlink as a military threat. Europe has realized this. They are scrambling to build IRIS² because they know they have outsourced their access to the stars to a monopoly they cannot control. The race isn't to build a better satellite. The race is to see if anyone can catch the ghost before it owns the sky. If you want to understand the business behind the engineering, subscribe to the channel. This is Frontier Logic.